You're listening to the Co-Creator Network because you do create your own reality.
Spread the word, it's time for the Dr. Robert Show. Join him today with his guests as they explore current hot topics about healthy living as food for thought. And what do the stars say? A look at how you in today's events are influenced by the cosmos. I Want to Believe, with thought-provoking prophecies about UFOs, star visitors, disclosure, and the 2012 awakening. Each week, new topics on relationships, conscious business, science, and technology all bring better understanding to our daily pursuits. Education will determine how our kids think in the future, and we will examine provocative new ideas in art, music, and dance as well. And now, it's time for Dr. Robert.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. It's lovely having you here this week. As always, I look so forward to doing the show and presenting information from a variety of folks who bring great expertise and understanding to what it is that we're talking about or wanting to know. I'm thrilled to have Renee Baribeau once again, our practical shaman chef, talking about food for thought, everything we need to know about how to live a healthy lifestyle. Bobby Marqueso, our resident ufologist, who always bring great new insight into everything from UFOs to government conspiracy theory to anything that has to really do with alien technology and star seeding. It's always fascinating. And Joseph Anthony, our resident astrologer, who takes a look at the stars every week and gives us a forecast, of what to expect and how we can prepare for the week ahead. I'd also like to welcome a new co-host to the show, Barbara St. John. Barbara St. John is a grief specialist. She's also a self-hypnosis therapy and a businesswoman who's worked many, many years in counseling and coaching. Has a couple of new books coming out. She's going to be bringing a lot of new thought regarding grief, recovery, post-traumatic stress syndrome, and a variety of topics to help us, forgive and remove and let go and get through the pain and adversities and the suffering and the sometimes deep grief and loss that we're experiencing all the time in our life. So, and of course, me, the Chirp, I'm here doing my numerology for everyone, a little intuitive insight into the week's forecast, and it's going to be great. So this week we're going to have Barbara sort of do a special guest appearance, and next week she'll begin her weekly topic of discussion. So without further ado, let's get the show started. And once again on this segment of the show is Bobby Marqueso, our resident ufologist. You can find out more about Bobby at www.bobbymarqueso.com. How are you doing today, Bobby?
Wonderfully. How are you?
I'm good. Well, here we are. We're in the throes of March. It just seems like we went through January and February. This year is moving along.
It's crazy. You always think about, after the new year passes, feels like you have all the time in the world and it's just starting out and it's fresh and it's going to be a good year. And next thing you know, like you said, it's all of a sudden March and like this time warp. I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. And it certainly is an extraordinary month. We're learning a lot about how the energy is pushing forward in March. So what's new in the world of UFOs?
Well, for those of you who are into UFOs and love to try to prove or disprove or what have you, James Fox is a well-known ufologist and producer of movies and films, documentaries. There's a couple of different documentaries that I would really highly recommend that he's got out there that you can actually watch on YouTube. One of them is called Out of the Blue, and the other one is also called I Know What I Saw. And again, you can just YouTube these, and they're on there for free that you can watch them, or hunt them down. And if you don't get them on YouTube, there's many other sites that you can get them on. His name is James Fox. He was also part of a UFO team that was showing on the Sci-Fi Channel. That they were not UFO hunters, because that's a different program. But I think this one was called Chasing UFOs, also a very good program that I'd recommend. And again, that was just on Sci-Fi, and yet you can also watch some of the episodes on YouTube. But anyway, so James, I like James. He seems to be a real good guy, a real credible guy, loves to believe, but yet at the same time doesn't jump at everything he sees. Well, he knows that, again, it's funny, we can you and I were talking about this, I think either last show or a couple of shows ago, how these people can get these wonderful pictures of this meteorite that exploded over Russia, but they can't all we get from UFOs is blurry, shaky photographs that we can't ever prove or disprove. And so what he's doing is he is making an announcement that he will, if someone can prove that UFOs truly exist, you can prove it, you could be $100,000 richer. So he's putting it up. This can be, and I'm kind of surprised at this, because he is accepting as evidence, he will accept photographs, which, as we all know, can easily be faked. But obviously, metals or some type of tangible evidence, videos, anything like that completely proves that there are UFOs out there. All right. So if you want $100,000, a quick, easy $100,000, all you got to do is prove a UFO exists, or come forward as an alien and let us know, and you can have easily $100,000. One of the other things that's happening is the Mars rover. Once again, pictures are being, you have to wonder about this. Pictures get sent back here. NASA posts them on their site. How many of those are pored over by ufologists and people who would love to see tangible evidence as well, that there used to be life on Mars, that there's these structures or pyramids on Mars as well, which I want to believe that as well, and I hope there is, and I can't wait for photographic evidence. But sometimes I think that they go a little too far and they try to make something out of nothing. One of the photographs that came back from the Mars rover apparently shows like the spine of an animal. Now they're comparing it to, like, you would see a spine of a fossilized dinosaur. And you can, if you type in, again, we don't post these on the site here, but what you can do is I try to give you links, or I'll try to give you names that you can Google, and just Google in fossilized spine on Mars, and that should bring it up for you. But it's the latest round of photos that were published on the internet, and they're saying that peeking out from the desert soil, it looks like the fossilized remains of a lizard-like creature. It's got this elongated, twisted spine, much like our dinosaurs had over here. And they compare the different images with an actual spine that was found as compared to that on Mars. And it looks like it to me, but you know how pictures can be deceiving. You can certainly, you can certainly be on something like that, or look at a picture like that, and it's easy to misconstrue from just a picture. So you'd actually have to see what it was on Mars. But I don't have any plans on going to Mars, so I won't be able to confirm or deny. But it's very interesting and fascinating just the same, if you love that kind of stuff. I always like seeing the pictures that they send back from the moon, from Mars, because these people pore over them, and they've got some pretty valid points. There's some pretty cool pictures out there of some of the structures, again, not only on Mars, but on the moon as well. And then finally, this afternoon, as we talk about UFOs, apparently one of those whistleblowers, a UFO whistleblower by the name of Dean Warwick, was the last speaker of the afternoon at this conference. There was a UFO conference in Blackpool, and apparently they were trying to convince him to blow the whistle on his experiences and knowledge regarding the NSA and these missing children and extraterrestrials. He had already gone public and even completed a few interviews a couple of weeks earlier talking about what he knew, but he'd only talked about a fraction of that. So they were going to try to appeal to this guy during the conferences to get him to say more while he was on stage. He was only minutes into his talk, and he collapsed unconscious on the floor and apparently died on stage. Interesting. When he collapsed,
Wow.
it's crazy. What were you going to say, Rob?
I just said, wow. I
Yeah.
mean, I can see this. I can see the flying dart going across the room and sticking him in the neck.
Well, I know. Right. He grabs his neck like he's slapping away a mosquito, and then he passes out. Now, this is where, you listen to this stuff, and that's the story part. But then there's always seems to be this divided line where it goes into the conspiracy theory. So now the story continues that when he collapsed on the floor, a woman witnessed a man with a dark hair slip out of the hall. She followed this guy. He walked down the stairs and apparently was whistling to himself, got in his car, made a phone call, and he was seen laughing down the street on the phone with whoever he was speaking to. So I think that's conspiracy theory. You know what I mean? Like it's very fascinating. This guy dies on stage, but then let's add to it, and there's got to be some mysterious guy whistling down a hallway into his car. That I think that gets a little hokey after that, but who knows? But you can see they don't have the video of him collapsing, but there are other interviews and such. If you Google Dean Warwick, and you can see some of the things that he knows and what he was going to talk about. And again, I guess it would have to do with some of the missing children and such. But death by poisoning, implantation, like a deadly virus into his water before he stepped on stage. There's a lot of mysterious and suspicious deaths that I have discovered in my research, that I find that some of these people get killed, die of cancer. And it just seems why, with as many people as come out and talk about this stuff, not all of them, but a lot of them died of a particular type of cancer. I can't see that as being a coincidence, but maybe that's just me.
Well, it's fascinating because so many do seem to die of a particular kind of strange cancer that is very rare.
Mm-hmm.
And, we look at, stories that are not like that, just whistleblowers in general that get run off the road and killed. I mean, there is a lot there, and it's the synchronicity of it after a while in our suspicious mind, along with how many James Bond movies have we seen?
Right. But,
that we feel this,
here's the statistic. 137 flying saucer researchers, writers, and scientists have died in the previous 10 years. And many of those were under mysterious circumstances or mysterious diseases. That's a lot.
I believe it. I was at the New Technology Conference that was held in Calgary a few years ago, and then met many of the new technology scientists in Vancouver. And the roundtable conversations, of which I have many on videotape, believe it or not, were around the fact that they were talking about their colleagues who've either been killed because they refused to sell their patents to certain governments, or because they were afraid that they felt they deserved the money, or they mysteriously died and the research disappeared. And so a lot of the new technologists and new scientists were very much concerned about what they should do in the next step of their research and how to get it out. And that's why there was so much talk about publishing now just directly to the internet and letting everybody have it for free, so to make sure that it doesn't get into the hands of the people who are going to prevent it from ever coming to light.
Yeah, make it very public. Good.
Yeah, and I heard that firsthand from many, many scientists. So it's kind of like, wow, there's a lot of espionage in this game, lots of it.
Huge.
Well, thank you, Bobby Marquesa, for joining us today on the show. As always, you give great report. We look forward to your upcoming reports throughout the year. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you.
And once again on this segment of the show is our practical shaman chef, Renee Baribeau, today to talk about a lot of new experiences that she's been having lately. Hi, Renee. How are you today, my darling?
Oh, I'm great. How are you doing, Robert?
I'm really good. I'm back from a major death and dying conference this past weekend, and I'm just sort of like taking a breath in because we're really here moving into March energy,
Oh,
and it's a lot of energy.
you're not kidding. I can't believe that it's already March. Can you?
I can. I mean, I guess I'm still reeling the fact that it's 2013. I'm still back in, Prince World 1999. Who
I
knows?
know, it's really funny. I just got back last night from what I would call a ski trip, but it was the way that the practical shaman works is that I travel all over the world and combine pleasure with working. And it has its advantages, but it also has its disadvantages where I got a little tired out from working so hard that I only skied twice.
Wow. Was it, but, did you wear yourself out on the 2 times?
Well, I might have worn myself out on the second time because despite my boot camp, I am in my mid 50s and I still ski like a bat out of hell. And I get up on that top of that mountain, but I'm writing the book on When the Wind Blows. So I had turned in the last couple of chapters to the editor right before I went, and I had to go meet Boreas, the North Wind. And boy, did I get every lesson that I needed about writing the next chapter about the North Wind. So, I love the North Wind.
I do too. I like the crisp cleanness of it, the pristineness of it, the clarity of it. I'm a big North Wind guy myself.
So it was, and I got lots of clarity. And sometimes we have to get away from our daily routine to get that clarity. And I wanted to talk to you today about how I got 13 housewives away from their daily routine to get clear.
Sweet. Let's have that conversation. Looking forward to it as always, Renee.
Well, you know that I'm the chef, and I've also over the years had to drop a lot of the restaurants and the catering business, and now there's really not a lot of time left in my life to do those things with my travel schedule. But I love to cook, and I love, more than loving to cook, I love the experience of what cooking does for people about bringing them present in joy in their own lives. And I've been working on this metaphor for a long, long time from the book The Shaman Chef forward on, the healing aspect of cooking. And past week, I had the opportunity to finally showcase this as a workshop that combined business and pleasure with food. And it was so much fun. Let me tell you a little bit about it. Was that we called it soul cooking. And that's how she invited people, because she wanted to do a separate business workshop and a separate cooking thing. And I said, no, I'm going to ski, combine them. And what happened was I think there was 12 women, all with children, who got away from 10 to 2 in their day. And they thought they were coming to watch me cook. And what I told them to do before they got there was to bring an apron and a knife. Funny, huh? They thought they were going to watch me cook. So what happened was I did an Iron Chef with them. And when they got there, I had done a little bit of research in advance to figure out what common ingredient that I could break these women apart into teams that they would have to use to create this amazing lunch. And I kind of went back and I did some research. Okay, so before I even went shopping, I had gone and looked up about 10 recipes myself and created a shopping list. So basically I had the basics. And then in the morning, I went to the grocery store and picked out what was fresh. And I got there, set up this beautiful bounty of food, which people can see over on Facebook at The Shaman Chef. And then I talked to them about what was their creative artist energy looking like. And what we did was we did a wind meditation from my new book about looking at that artist energy going on in their lives and found out which direction they were sitting in during the day. And so that they could see what was empowering them and disempowering their inner artist. It was fascinating. You there?
I'm here. I'm listening. I'm fascinated by the story.
I know, it's great. So then first thing off, before they knew what hit them, I said, who cooks? And, all the hands go up. And then I said, well, who cooks good? And then all the hands went down except for about 4. And I said, great, you're my team captains. Then what I did was I divided them into teams and I gave them little slips of paper that they had to choose from. And that was from soup to dessert, different courses. And can you guess at what my common ingredient was?
No.
I used an avocado. And what was so funny was the woman I was staying at in Park City the night before, she goes, well, I'd never heard of an avocado dessert. And guess what team she was on?
I love
So
it.
sure enough, she got the avocado dessert. And what they made was an avocado mousse, an avocado, pineapple, and blood orange mousse with no sugar in it. And it was delicious. Again, see these pictures over at the Shaman Chef, because the spread was unbelievable. So there was one woman sitting there who was just like, oh my God, my kids have been sick for days, blah, blah, blah. Well, by the end of it, she was so reinvigorated and recharged by the experience, and that they really outdid themselves. Do you want to hear what they had for food?
Yeah, it sounds fabulous. I'm already getting hungry.
Oh my word. So one group, and I had gotten some pretty good staples. You know, being a good chef, I got shrimp and chicken were going to be the main staple in terms of, besides for the avocado, they could do whatever they wanted. We had everything from a raw zucchini salad to spinach salad with avocados. They made ceviche. They made tostadas with the grilled avocado and feta. And then they made a mango salsa with it. We had a Thai chicken with avocado, garnishing it with fresh cilantro. And I showed them how to make a vegetable sushi roll with rice. Originally, I was told them to pick out, everyone could pick out an ingredient and I'd have to cook. But what was so funny was there was how the groups worked. It was a great study in group interaction, because some groups got right on it. They knew right what they were going to cook. But I didn't give them any rules. I didn't say, like, you can or cannot go on and get recipes. So there was the groups that got onto the internet and found recipes before they even started. And so by the time they went to get ingredients, those front loader groups had already snatched up all of the ingredients. So then it became a thing where people had to, navigate between the groups to get the food that they needed from the other people.
Wow, fascinating, right?
It was amazing, but what you should have seen was, then I told them that not only did they have to cook it and that we had a time limit because we were going to all sit down to eat at a certain time, I wanted it displayed. So then they had to get back together, and the people with that avocado dessert mousse, which was amazing, made little fortune cookies or fortune swirls, so that each one had its own little description about whether it was your heart or it was a joy or it was. They just really, really went to town. And so then after lunch, we sat down to this most amazing buffet, and really, really delightful group of people who got to know each other. But the food was so delicious. I told them, when you're doing healing, it's always easier to cook better for the other guy, and I'm expecting a really, really good meal out of you. So there was that expectation of, what was to be, that we were serving healing food for everyone. There wasn't one thing that was burnt or overcooked or undercooked, or I just was in awe.
The coming together process, the collective bargaining chip, which is, bringing joy and love of what you love to do or can do to the people around you, is a wonderful vibration.
It just was so amazing, and they were so proud of themselves. And that night, the one woman who hosted it, and the kitchen to die for. There was 12 people cooking in this kitchen, 4 different stations, nobody tripping over each other's feet. Just to see her kitchen that they just built was spectacular anyway. But it's something that I really want to continue. So if there's anyone out there who thinks that their community's ready for an Iron Chef with soul cooking with the Shaman Chef, they should definitely get in touch with me. But everyone needs to go over and see these pictures, because it was just a rare treat.
Well, I think you need to pitch this for television, darling. This is your time. You should get this put together as a pitch. Next time you do it, videotape it. Get somebody in there with a videography camera and shoot it. And pitch this. It's a great idea. It's time. It's time has come. People are wanting to connect back to the kitchen. I was just looking at Delia Smith, who's a very famous UK chef. She's sold over 21 million books on cooking. In the UK, most Americans probably don't know who she is, but she just hung up her hat, and England decided to leave television because it had become more about entertainment than it has about cooking, and she's done it because she's going out actually on a campaign at 71 years of age to physically teach people how to cook again, because the Brits have lost the desire or knowledge to cook because they can get everything as fast food or pre-made packaging. So I think that's kind of an amazing thing that's happening in the world, and your work is definitely a part of that, renaissance.
Well, and also that night the woman rolled up these vegetable sushi rolls. Now she knows how to make them for her children, and they just couldn't get enough of them.
Yeah, it's a process. It's taking time to really enjoy our life and share what we have with others in that very good high vibration, preparing it ourselves. Well, thank you, Renee. We ran out of time today. It went really fast. I want to thank you once again for being on the show. Renee, how can everybody learn more about your work?
My assistant told me to remind everyone, just Google me. Google The Practical Shaman, and you're going to come up with a boatload of information about where you can reach me in our programs and the blogs and all of that.
Well, there you go. Google Renee Baribeau, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you again, Renee, for being on the show today. Until next week, everyone will talk to the chef about all things food and beauty.
Well, let me just
What?
I was just going to tell you, I'm going to a winery for lunch tomorrow, and I'm on the circuit for organic wine. So we'll have something new to talk about next week.
Oh, I love that. We love wine.
Right.
All right, my darling. Have a great week.
All right. Thanks.
And once again, on this segment of my show is Joseph Anthony, our resident astrologer. You can find out more about Joseph at www.planetswithin.com. Hello, Joseph. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Robert. I'm doing well. Pretty excited about all these changes that are occurring. I'm looking forward to another month of.
Well, we're here. We're actually going to be in that month already. I can't believe it's already March and it's halfway through. So it's amazing.
Absolutely. It seems like the time seems to be moving by a lot faster, but I think it's really our perception of reality that's changing. Our consciousness is opening up even more so. So really, there is no such thing as time, as you and I both know, but it's our awareness that's changing. So
it's definitely changing. How's our astrology doing this week? How much is it changing?
Well, not a whole lot. To be honest with you, we still have Mercury retrograde as of today, and it'll continue all the way until the 17th. And so we still have plenty of planets in Pisces. So what's really happening is we're revisiting the past, as I've been saying the last few weeks, and we're getting in touch with that part of us, which is really on a spiritual level, a really deep spiritual level. And that's what all these planets in Pisces are doing. It's trying to bring out our compassion in our daily lives. And I see that in my own life, and I see that with clients as well. So the astrology for this week is about the same as it's been the last week or two. So we have a lot of alignments taking place today. As a matter of fact, there's so much activity, very positive activity though. That's the interesting thing. It's very positive activity where we're being structured, or there's some sort of organization that's taking place where we should focus our attention on what we really want, even though it's not easy to put forth right now because Mercury's retrograde and the planets are not in a sort of a futuristic mindset. It's more of the past. It's about focusing on what we need to let go of the past and then taking a glimpse into the future, preparing, in other words. So we have that going on today. And then going into the weekend, we have a new moon coming up on Monday, but looking at Thursday and Friday, these are just, basic days where I see some positive alignments where we could get a lot done, a lot of progress, focus our attention on what we want to accomplish. It's very much goal oriented. The next few days is very much goal oriented. So I would focus on that as the moon travels from Capricorn today into Aquarius on Thursday and Friday. These are going to be more humanitarian symbols, and that's what the moon in Aquarius represents, humanitarian. So look for projects in our lives where we can do a lot more socializing or networking and focus our attention on how do we help others and friends in our lives. Then we go into the weekend. The moon switches gears, and late on Saturday, the moon goes into Pisces. So now we have another solar body in Pisces, that making six planets from an astrological perspective in Pisces. Again, bringing out the emotion and the feelings. So this weekend on Saturday and Sunday, both the moon in Pisces and on Monday, we have this feeling of something new. We have this anticipation coming. We feel that something is changing within us, but it's also our creative side. So I want people to focus on this next new moon that's coming up in Pisces on Monday. Is a very positive new moon having to do with creativity, imagination, spirituality, understanding our dreams, putting forth our higher self. This is all very positive. Try and stay away from the martyr syndrome. Oh, I don't know, life's not moving forward. That's silly nonsense, because unfortunately Pisces can be associated with that. But this new moon is very inspiring because it will also be conjunct Venus. Venus will also be in Pisces, so romance is going to be highlighted very much so. Creativity involving partnerships will be also highlighted. There will be also an idea about money or money-making strategies, which will also be highlighted, which is all very favorable. And also on Monday, we have a very interesting alignment taking place, which happens once every year. The planet Mars, which is the warrior planet, the driven one, the one that seeks action, is going into its own sign of Aries, okay, on the same day as the new moon. So anything is possible with Mars and Aries. There is a restlessness in the air to get things done. So we could see how this imagination is going to come forth, but yet the power behind it is going to be Mars in Aries, which is going to really motivate us to go in the direction that we want to go in. So this guy is going to stay in there for quite a while. As a matter of fact, he'll be in there until April, looks like the 20th, Mars in Aries. So this will help to get plans in motion and get action, put some action behind our words. But I still want people to keep in mind, Mercury will still be retrograde until the 17th, so think twice before you jump into anything new or sign any contracts or agreements that are new, because the impulsive Aries, action, the Mars and Aries, the action related to that will just have us leaping back and forth into things that we're not even going to think twice about. So I want you to pay extra attention this weekend as we come into this this new moon and this astrological alignment that's changing with Mars and Aries. So we'll feel a shift without a doubt as this new moon comes into effect. And as the week gradually unfolds, we will begin to see more and more energy go up. Our drive will go up. Our interest in maybe working out will go up. Our desire to better ourselves on some level will go up. This is all part of the Mars and Aries alignment, also with Venus there. There's going to be a strong need to assert ourselves or go after what we want. And then as we go into Tuesday, again, we still have the strong alignments of the Mars and Aries, but now we add another element. We add the moon. The moon enters Aries as well. So now not only do we have Mars in Aries, now we are joined by the moon on Tuesday the 12th. So here we see more action-oriented energy coming into effect. So what I'm going to suggest here is that people really pay attention to what they're doing, especially while driving. Please pay attention while driving, because Aries and Mars rules cars and movement. So it may not be anything you're doing. There may be just people just not paying attention. So I want people to pay attention about what's going on around them at all times, especially while driving, and also realize that this energy is being amped up. So this could be, having a short fuse or just, letting something out uncontrollably. And that is also very possible with all this energy that's building. But overall, I would spend the time literally doing either physical activity, going for a walk, exercising in the gym, yoga, whatever floats your boat, because it's the best way to burn off this excess energy that is slowly building towards the end of the month. And Robert, by the end of this month, these planets start to switch into Aries, which is all action oriented. So there's no way of stopping this tidal wave that's coming. And, but it's going to be an interesting week. But as we go into the weekend, Robert, there'll be this momentum behind the energy, and we're all going to feel it for sure. So.
Well, it's a very exciting time. There's two things happening this week. One is, of course, we're moving into daylight savings time on March 10th on Sunday. And more importantly, my birthday's on March 12th.
Oh, listen, you couldn't ask for a better gift than motivation and energy.
On a new moon, new beginnings, get right into it and jump and twist and twist.
That's exactly right. But this is also a very positive new moon for physical, like I said, physical energy, and also to change our physical appearance if we desire, because having this much energy behind us will give us the motivation to go to the gym or exercise or, be very consciously aware of our physical appearance as well.
Well, I'm conscious of that right now. I mean, I've been doing a lot of work, so I think that's where a lot of us are in that mindset. It's great. We're going to have that real energetic field to really kind of push us forward through March and get us really into that bathing suit look by summer. Why not start now?
Exactly.
Listen, Joseph, I want to let everyone know a little bit. Tell everyone about your monthly newsletter if they opt in and sign into your website, because I get it. I love it. It gives me a lot of information about the up and coming month.
Well, thank you. I have a monthly newsletter that I put out. It's free. It's on planetswithin.com. It's always posted up on the front page there. I always include events, and I do have a big event coming up in Sedona in May, May the 9th, and that's also posted up there. But the newsletter gives you an overview of what's happening astrologically for the month, and it's written in a very simple format. It's not complicated. You could understand it, and I also include the horoscopes at the bottom. So it's just a great way to really kind of get a grasp of what the cycles are doing and how they're influencing us. So, all you have to do is go to my website, either planetswithin.com or josephpanthony.com, and just sign up. It's free. There's no obligation. I don't sell your name. I don't send you a lot of junk mail. And I think it's just a great way for people to just stay in touch with the cycles,
All right. Well, thank you so much for this report this week, Joseph. I'm looking forward to seeing all the push that's going on, getting me into shape. And thank you again for joining us once again on the show. Till next time, have a great week. And joining me on this segment of the show is actually a very good friend of mine, Barbara St. John. Barbara and I reconnected this past week at the Death and Dying Conference in Scottsdale, Arizona, where Barbara has spent many, many years working as a grief counselor and many other things. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. But we've always had such a great connection over the years, and we've been wanting to do something together for a while, and it just seems like this is the appropriate opportunity to introduce her to my audience and let my audience become part of her audience. Barbara St. John is a nationally acclaimed lecturer, author, behavioral modification specialist, certified recovery specialist. She's a certified hypnotist. She has a brand new weight loss program that she's going to talk about throughout the week's with us. And she's a relationship consultant and businesswoman. Broad spectrum of work that she's doing. She has extensive experience in presenting programs and seminars in communication management, relationship issues, domestic abuse, and self-protection. And plus, she has a program called Zero Resistant Weight Release that she'll also talk about. Plus, most importantly, her grief recovery. So you can see why I'm so excited to have her join us on the Dr. Robert Show. She'll be having a segment along with Renee Baribeau and Joseph Anthony and Bobby Marqueso and myself throughout the coming weeks. She presently lives in Scottsdale, Arizona, where she has her office that she works with grief consulting with, a huge client base. But she's got a great background. Beverly Hills, working with being a therapist to the stars. She has owned businesses and been an entrepreneur, continues to be one. She's been an entrepreneur all of her life. So that's where I believe she can bring so much excitement to our show. She's got a couple of new books coming out. So today I really just wanted to bring her on board today, spend 20 minutes or so with all of us, talking about who she is and what she's doing before we really get her locked in on a weekly show. You got some background. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you Barbara St. John. Hello, Barbara. Welcome to the show today.
Oh, thank you, Robert. I'm so excited to be working with you.
I'm excited too. You know why? We just laughed last weekend after the lecture. You had your booth next to mine, and we were there doing our presentation. And so much of it, part of it was it's kind of heavy when we're talking about grief and death and dying and the whole thing that goes around that. So I've really felt like you could bring a lot of information to the public through, my radio show that's going to help them through grief and pain and dealing with adversity. That's my favorite subject.
I know, Robert. I know you've been through that in your life. I know that. And, grief has always been a part of mine. The way I got started is, very young, child, losing a lot of family members and watching the family around me sort of collapse through all these deaths of my father and my brother and grandfather and things just shifting and changing and patterns moving within our lives. And really realizing that there was no one there to assist us in any way. And so I got into the grief because of that, naturally, understanding my own and being able to assist others with that. And, grief is normal and natural, but it's something that, as a society, Robert, we don't do. We don't do it very well. And, I say we're a country of grievers, actually. And, grieving is normal and natural. But, through our lives, we learn to kind of snuff it up and muster it up and keep going. And I often say the definition of grief is sort of like reaching out for somebody, for the very last time maybe you need them, and they're not there. And so they're physically not there. And then, there's a grief in relationships too, Robert, when those break up. And, that's sort of like reaching out for somebody who may have never been there. And so my practice is about that, bringing people through that and to the other side, bringing them to the zero and then bringing them to this optimistic sort of attitude about life and moving through all the losses. And there are a lot of losses. It's not just the death of someone. It can be the death of a relationship. It can be divorce. It can be moving. It can be financial. And today, with the housing and, jobs and businesses, people are in great financial stress, and which creates a lot of grief and a lot of loss in families and the family breakup and so forth because of those losses. So, and a lot of times even I work with a lot of cancer patients, Robert, and leukemia patients. And just the loss of health is another thing that can affect people. So, those are just a few things, a few of the losses, but there's many, many losses that we have in our life. And another one is pets, which is a big one as well.
Yes, absolutely, Barbara. It's amazing when we talk about pets also, and I'm glad you brought up pets, is how much grief that people can go through with losing a pet after 12 or 15 years they've had that animal in their life, and then ultimately you don't really get sick time off for losing pets, and you're back to work and you're going through this deep grieving process and expected to act normal. How do you handle or deal with do you ever work with the employer as much as the employee over the grief that the person is going through, or do you keep it directed at the person going through the grief?
Well, actually, I will sometimes talk to the employer to let him know what's going on with this particular client, because you're right, the loss of an animal is just devastating. And, because they are our protectors, and they absorb so much energy around us, and they become our children, and we nurture them. And, of course, that is a huge grief for people. But, in our society, people are like, well, oh, the dog died? Well, just get another one. Just replace it. Okay. And so why are you grieving so much? Just get another one, And so, but that's not true. You can't replace that particular little animal. And you have to go through the process of the mourning of that animal in order to connect to the next animal. Because as you know, Robert, each time you lose an animal, you get a little more tentative about how you're, reacting with this dog and responding to this dog, because there's a part of you that is thinking, God, I don't want to go through that again, yet I want a dog. Now, until you dissolve the pain of that, then you're not truly able to really connect with the next one that you get. And so people don't realize that until I bring that up, and they say, it's true. There's a part of me that holds me back from really loving this dog because I haven't gotten past my other little dog. So, it's a very important grief in people's lives.
I find it very interesting, and I know I'm going off a little bit here, but I have a really good friend that dealt with a huge crisis in his life with his partner dying of AIDS many years ago, and he was going through that whole process of dealing with that, going to work, trying to not really having a life, work, home, and ultimately his partner passed away. And he was in a bar having a drink one evening, and the people around him were asking him, "Why are you so depressed?" And he was saying, "Well," and he was explaining the situation. And the folks next to him says, "Well, you know what? That's not the kind of conversation you want to have now. This is happy hour."
Yeah,
so
you're supposed to put it away, muster it up, Robert. That's what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, you're supposed to You're right. You're supposed to toughen up, and I think our society in general looks at the whole process as that, you got to come back and you got to go on with your life, and you need to just, move through it as fast as you can so you can get back to normal. What do you have to say about that?
Well, it's true. Many people, there's about 141 things a person can hear, and about, 120 of them don't work. Okay, so I tell people don't take out your calculator because 85% of them is, no good. Because most of the time it's just to cover it up. People don't know what to say. And they don't know what to do with your grief. Once that individual starts grieving, then they feel their own pain that they've mustered up and pushed through. So it's very, very true that people just don't know what to say. And sometimes they say the wrong thing. I had a client who lost a child, and she had 3 others, and someone walked up and said, "Well, at least you have 3 others." It's like, oh my God. Okay. Like, don't worry about that one. You need now to take care of them, and don't take time to grieve the loss of this one. And so again, the message is muster it up, get over it. After a funeral, sometimes 2 to 3 days later, the house is empty, Robert. There's nobody there. All the food's gone. And now you're sitting in this house, and this person is not in your life any longer. And now you realize, oh, my God, I have to start healing, and I've got to do it today. I got to act like I'm normal and natural. But see, what's normal and natural is the grieving, not the mustering up and pushing through, you see. So
yeah, absolutely.
And what helps with what you do, Robert, is that the numerology is I find it so fascinating because people have different coping skills. And I see what you do as assisting them in figuring out what those coping skills are or aren't, and maybe the areas that they need in order to cope with this, you see. I think that's what's so powerful with what you do.
Well, thank you. And, one of the reasons, Barbara, I wanted you to be a part of the show is, as you well know, some of my story, and the listeners do too, but I've been through multiple near-death experiences. I've dealt with post-traumatic stress syndrome for most of my adult life and part of my childhood from sexual abuse as a child, but ultimately working later during the Vietnam War in Asia and doing photographic work and spending times in villages that were massacred. Many, many incredible stories in my life. But I have been so deeply affected by grief and remorse and living in guilt from death of people in car wrecks that I was with, having to go through so much of that. The most that could happen out of that originally for me was I was sent to an anger clinic in San Francisco by the military to cope with my anger. And I was sitting in a room with all these folks who were, there were either veterans or they were men and women who were, mostly men at that time, who had been through so much, and they were so angry. That's what they thought was wrong with us, is our anger, and we need to get that under wraps and whatever. And it was just an amazing process of spending the last 35 years of my life in recovery from such dramatic situations in my life. How do you speak to the modern veteran today and what they're going through?
Well, I do work with guys coming back from Kuwait. I've worked with Vietnam vets in Chicago and New York. And anger is one of the major ways, especially for men, Robert. Anger is an acceptable way for a man to express his grief, because underneath that anger is that grief and pain. But they're directing it out And instead of kind of going in and feeling that pain, it kind of goes out. And that's another way of mustering it up, you see. And I find that the gentlemen coming back from Vietnam and from Kuwait, they have explosions of anger because of this amount of pain, like you're talking about, what you went through, seeing what you see, dealing with what you deal with, and the amount of grief that is around you that you are experiencing, not only for the soldiers, but for everybody else involved. So the whole country is in grief. So now these guys are entrenched in this pain. And, you know, as I talked about in the seminar, you know, men are taught to muster it up real good, right? You know, if they cry when they're children, what's the first thing that's said to them? You know, well, don't be a sissy, you know, or go to your room. You know, that's a good one. Isolate. I don't want to hear it, you see. And so those are the messages that we're giving to our young boys, our children. And they're eating it up and saying, oh, my God, this is what I need to do to get everyone's approval, you see. So when someone comes back from Vietnam or from Kuwait, it's sort of like it's not okay to be in pain. It's not okay to have a normal grieving episode, but it's okay to be enraged because then we can give you a pill, Robert, you see, and we can quiet it down. But we don't have to talk about the pain. And that's what I think is happening.
I think it's happening a lot, and I know from the first times I was dealing with post-traumatic stress as a child going into teen years, of course, immediately it was all about the meds, and I've spent several different periods in my life heavily medicated from doctors to more about shutting it down and not having the feeling, and then ultimately they gave me drugs that said, well, now what we're going to do is we're going to remove the pain completely, and you're just going to have happy thoughts and happy feelings. And it's like, okay, well, I'm happy today, and it seems like a really good day to kill myself.
Exactly.
And those kind of thoughts would come up, you know?
And, you know, so what they're trying to do is they give you the pill, it shifts the thoughts, and so now we give you positive thinking, okay? But the default mode sends you back to that pessimistic pain and hurt, you see, because that's the actual default mode. But they're giving you the pill that's covering that mode, but you're always slipping back to it, you see, until you actually defragment it or, you know, in computer terms, delete it or, you know, I always say collapse or turn it around or melt it away or whatever you need to do. But it has to be understood. And I tell my vets that there's nothing to change. There really isn't. There's nothing to alter. You're not broken. All we're going to do is understand how you are coping with this tremendous amount of grief and these overwhelming conflicting emotions that are hitting your body.
Well, I tell you what, Barbara, we have so many topics for you to talk about on this show. This is one whole aspect that I know that you're going to be spending the coming weeks talking about and supporting people and giving them new information on how they can support themselves and the transformation back into living a life that allows them to feel love and joy and peace of mind in their life. Along with that information, there's so much more. Besides the grief recovery, you work in relationships and management. You have a new weight loss program that you've put together. I mean, tell us about some of the other stuff that you're going to be talking about on the show.
Okay, well, the zero weight resistance, I am so excited about this, Robert. They have tested it in Australia. The author, I co-authored with Dr. Robert Anthony. He's the author of 20 books. And we co-authored this program, and we are having so much fun with it. And actually, Robert, I have to tell you my story. When I was very young, I was always skinny. I modeled. I did all of that. And when I got married in the 90s, whatever, I all of a sudden went from this size 5 wedding gown to size 18 because of the amount of stress. And it was the stress that was doing it. So I never could understand people who were heavy, Robert. I didn't get that. And so all of a sudden the universe goes, really? So I got it now. And so as we worked on this program, I was so excited because I've dropped weight, as you saw me the other night, and keep coming down, and I want to share it with everyone. And I have several people in the group who has lost 40, 35, 25 pounds. Another one lost 15. So we're all excited about it. But it's a complete CD package, and we also talk about the pendant, which is an energy pendant, but it's more of an anchoring for you so that you remember that your body comes first, and it is the temple that you're feeding. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, and I am too. I'm actually excited about doing the program.
Yes, yes.
And it's always good. And of course, I've been losing weight myself. I've knocked down. I'm doing less than 15 grams of sugar and have been since the first of the year. And just doing that alone, I've reduced down, 18 or 20 pounds in the last couple of months. But this is now March, so it's been a full 2 months, and that's a tremendous amount of weight loss just naturally. I haven't even changed my diet except for the sugar. So I can imagine what adding, healthy living to that will be. I know that you've got a couple of books that you're working on right now with a couple of gentlemen. You mentioned one of them, but the other thing that fascinates me about your background is it used to be a PI.
I did, and actually, I was a PI, and I worked with rape and assault victims. I worked with a homicide detective in Scottsdale, and it was a lot of fun, and I really loved helping the women. I ended up doing seminars for colleges and universities across the country, and they loved it. And I'm thinking what I'm going to be doing is offering that on my website again, and I'm actually going to have my audio on there for anyone who needs it, Robert, and it would be for free for them to kind of listen to some of that information. It's very powerful. If they have experienced any kind of assault or any kind of victimization at all. And it's very, very close to my heart in helping those women and men as well, and I'm very excited about bringing that program back.
Well, we're very excited about having you on the show. Barbara, just spend a couple of minutes telling everybody about how they can get in touch with you. And, of course, they're going to learn more about you here on the website. We're going to have a page up for you, as we do for all the other hosts. And in the coming weeks, you're going to have lots of great topics.
Yes, it's Barbara, and it's BARBARA, and Saint, SAINTJOHN.com. And they can go right to my website. And I am offering a complimentary CD. It's just about a 15-minute harmonic, just a relaxation, kind of a journey inward. And so I am offering that to people, to your listeners, Robert, too.
Okay, well, they're now going to become part of your listening group. We're so thrilled to have you on board here and to follow along with all the topics that you have coming up and all the work that you're going to be doing, in the future.
Well, I appreciate it, and I am so looking forward to working with you. I'm so excited.
All right. I want to thank you for being here today, Barbara. Again, you can learn more about Barbara at barbarastjohn.com, and you can also connect with her here on the website to find out any more links or information, and Googling her, and take a real look at her website, because there's a lot of fascinating things there, and she's going to be putting together some work. We're also going to be putting together a few telesummits or webinars together. We've decided to joint venture and partner up this year for some work. We're really looking forward. Again, Barbara, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, lots of hugs to you, Robert.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Well, hey, everyone, we've almost run out of time. I can't believe how fast it went by today. It was an excellent interview with Barbara St. John, our new grief specialist, who will be joining our show next week. I'm really, really excited about that. And, of course, always great information from Renee Baribeau, Bobby Marqueso, and Joseph Anthony, of all which you should check out their websites and really get to know them better, because they're here to really bring a great service to all of us and to help guide us and support us and everything that we're wanting to learn and do to make our lives a better place, to be able to really live the life by design that we're here to support and live. We're wrapping up this week before the show next week. It's my birthday, so I'm going to go out this weekend and celebrate. I hope all of you are enjoying the month of March, because, of course, it's speeding up like the speed of light to me. How about you? I'd like to hear more about what you're feeling this month, how it's really tapping into your energetic field to make you feel like you're just moving and shaking at the speed of light. It's been a conversation for the last couple of weeks, especially. So be sure to let me know at drdp@robertpease.net or info@robertpease.net, whichever one. We always like to hear back to see what you think of the show. Check me out at www.robertpease.com, especially for up-and-coming telesummits and webinars that I have going on. I want to thank all of you again for joining us today on, another episode of the Dr. Robert Show. We really love being here. We appreciate you listening and connecting with you, each week, especially being part of the family here on co-creatornetwork.com. We love everything about it. So you have a wonderful week, wonderful life. Until the next time, namaste.